I'll quickly call upon the next speakers on stage for a quick fireside chat about a 360-degree perspective of the trends and projections for future. We have Arvind Kakru, Director of Rockwell Automation. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you so much, Arvind. And also we have Harish Thimmegowda, Director at IT, Head of Automation Strategy, Merck, KGaA, Darmstadt, Germany. Please put your hands together for both the gentlemen. And Mr. Arvind, Harish, please go ahead. Thank you.
All right. I hope you hear me all right. I think the mic is working. So very good afternoon to all of you. And as you see, we've been having a very engaging session since morning. A lot of in-depth discussions around the industry itself and technology and innovations that have been happening. I just want to lay a bit of context, in terms of what this discussion is about. And as you widely know, I'm just going to hit some quick points here, in terms of Indian pharmaceutical industry. Like it's possibly the third biggest, in terms of, and 14th largest in terms of volume. It has got a big, vast presence in India. 3,000 plus companies, I think 10,000 plus manufacturing plants, and a lot of innovation going on, a lot of skills here. But at the same point of time, we want to see how we kind of grow it globally and make it much bigger. And that is what the aspiration of the industry has been about. There have been a lot of innovations happening, a lot of adoption of technology, and people have started moving in the last few years from just, say, doing pilots in the digital transformation space to a much more widely enterprise solution, making it a connected enterprise overall. And that is very critical for the Indian pharmaceutical industry aspiration of taking it global and especially covering the larger markets like the US. So I think with that, we're going to be talking about the future trends and technologies and innovations that are going to happen. And Harish, I can possibly start with the first question around, we heard in the morning around Global Lighthouse Network and some projects going on in that direction. And a lot of companies from India also have contributed to that over a period of time. Now, how do you see that panning out in terms of drug discovery, in terms of manufacturing, in terms of anything else, that you would like to throw light on, your point of view as an industry specialist, and also anything you want to share us personally?
Yeah, I think we had a great discussion from the morning and a lot of points in terms of automation and where we are scaling in terms of digitalization as well. That's a very good prospect what we are seeing, and from this summit, my takeaway would be a lot of things are going to happen in the next coming years. So it's a great going. So with that, coming to greenhouse and the lighthouse, a lot of sustainability factors which are going to play. The pandemic and the geopolitical situations have taught us as to how to deal with the future sustainable growth as well. Like our Prime Minister always says that we need to be more sustainable and we need to also achieve the emissions much ahead than anybody else, and we are in that path. So with that as a motive, we are also moving towards reducing the resource consumptions. We are also doing upskilling and reskilling of the people. Then we are also being responsible for consumption and production. We are also ensuring that we have the innovation and technologies and the infrastructure in place to put all of these SDG goals in place so that we have a larger combination. And we also have synergies, like this forum gives us enough synergies and collaboration for us to see how we can collaborate each other in the coming days as we move towards that goal.
Sure, absolutely. And I see a lot of innovation happening in that space, from vast industries, in India especially, and there have been 100-odd certifications that have been done so far. And some of the industries within India has a fair share, and I was talking about that number globally. And India has been scaling up pretty quick. I'm sure a lot of innovation is happening in that space. Okay, so my next question to you is, like, in terms of IT and OT. Typically, like traditionally from a manufacturing standpoint, we're looking more like operational technology in specific around a lot of vast areas and their individual networks also in that space and their different assets in that space, and also IT, which used to possibly operate as a very different, I would say, in a silo separately. But over the past few years, we've been seeing a lot of convergence around IT and OT. How do you view that, panning out overall, and is that really critical, from integrating both of them and having a much larger strategy around the IT OT integration?
Yeah, my perspective is that we are moving towards the right direction. Converging IT and OT gives us that additional space to move into digitalization world where we adopt that to give patients a faster medicine and a more analyzed and clinically viable solutions for the patients. So that's how I look at it. But I think the leaders here spoke in detail, and I don't want to touch again the same concepts of IT, OT, and Pranav and others really touched upon as to how it can really make a difference in terms of adopting those technologies. But IT is more of data computing, and OT is more of giving controls and access. So when these two come as a digital twin, and we have a booth from Cognizant who are also showcasing that, it can make really wonders in making decisions. So we also spoke about the predictive and the prescriptive analysis. That's a takeaway. And with that, we know exactly where the machines are heading and what actions we need to take even before it blows out. And we also talk about the continuous manufacturing practices, which definitely needs these digital twins and IT-OT convergence. Without this, I don't think so that would be an achievable point. So IT-OT convergence has to happen, and it would definitely help us moving forward with that direction.
Sure. And just to elaborate, I think in some of the earlier sessions, I could hear some of the people saying, like, it's a journey that can't be done alone in isolation or in silos. I think a lot of functions and people are involved in making that successful, and that comes from manufacturing, operations, management, IT, all kind of, I think, possible functions or collaborators in that journey.
So we also start thinking about IT-OT convergence is post-pandemic. Before pandemic, it was always in silos. Right. Now we have started fast forwarding that. So that's a very good concept.
So I think collaboration has gone to the next level, or it's moving forward in the right direction. Okay, just moving the focus a little bit differently, and we all know, like, pharmaceuticals, healthcare is a very heavily regulated industry. How do you see, augmented reality, virtual audits, helping as far as regulatory compliance is concerned? Is it like an impediment? Is it kind of going to help in accelerating some of those things? Any thoughts, any viewpoint you have?
I know we had a presentation on 21 CFR Part 11, so that itself shows that we need to adopt compliance. We need to have regulators as our partners and enablers. And if we do not have regulators, I have seen some of the worst cases happening as well in my experiences. So we need to have regulators, and we need to take them as the collaborators and enablers together. And they are also data driven. Anything with the regulators is also data driven. And to achieve a faster regulatory approval, they take technology as a enabler path as well. And we heard one of our colleagues saying about 21 CFR Part 11 came even before the Googles and the Facebooks of the world in 1996 when we were still in the colleges. So that's the kind of futuristic thinking what they have. I know it's kind of heavy in terms of adopting that and moving in that trail. What we can achieve in 6 months, it may take about 2 years to do that, and it's mostly heavy on documentation, but the end result would be fantastic, and believe me, nothing like that. That trail and the kind of journey we go through with that would definitely help in getting better, meaningful, data-driven results out of that, taking regulators as our partners rather than looking them as more of a controllers.
Sure. Coming back to IT/OT integration point of view, I had a question that was kind of in the similar space, which was more in terms of execution or implementing or just monitoring, how that should be. Any thoughts on how that should happen, how frequently those kind of collaborations should happen? Is there a process to kind of build it up? Anything, that you want to add on?
As we adopt more technologies, the risk management becomes quite critical as well. The technology brings cost efficiency, it brings higher efficiency as well, and also the collaboration together. With that, with the risk also becomes a little more critical. So we also need to have an approach to mitigate those risks and move forward and see how regularly we need to engage with the regulators and the auditors to ensure that we are in the right direction and pull us back if we have anything that we are derailing from the right path.
Okay. All right. So I think we heard some of the discussions also around executing it right and failing fast and those kind of things, right? This is again a journey. Second, we are also trying to adopt as a country, as an industry, a lot of things in that space, and they're bound to be surprises, not so great executions. In some cases, what we think is should be an ideal scenario possibly doesn't pan out that way. Now, in the whole process, there's a big element of partnership, with either technology companies or service providers, and there's a big element of that, and the success also depends upon, how tightly you collaborate with those companies, with your partners. How do you see, in terms of choosing the right partner, what should be the parameters, dynamics, typically what are the kind of things to possibly look at? Or how do you look at,
And I would directly take shelter on Tushar's slides. He clearly summarized saying that the domain expertise and the technology partners are the key partners for us to drive the next level of digitalization. We need them, and we need them in terms of communication, we need them in terms of skills, we need them in terms of transparency, we need them in terms of expertise. We also need them in terms of domain, right? I mean, if you don't have the domain expertise and you just have the technology behind you, you may not be able to understand what the GXP is and what the regulatory aspects which need to be taken care while you are, for example, taking an implementation to be made in one of the operations area. You need to follow certain standards, and if you just skip some of them, those standards are made to ensure that we have the safety material taken care for the patients. And if we skip that, then we are non-compliant. So we need to ensure that all of these steps are taken care. So the domain expertise also plays an important role. For me, technology partner plus the domain expertise is going to be a very key factor in this digitalization.
Yeah. Well said. My point of view, in addition to what you said, and rightly, domain expertise, you look at skill sets, you also look at kind of presence. I think within those digital transformations or those specific projects also, I think the areas where people specialize in, sometimes, there would be different sets of players, who possibly would be, more ingrained into a particular set. There would be some who would be doing better in some other areas and things like that. Yeah. So I agree with you. I think there's some interesting thoughts developing. So I would just like to have some audience questions, if there are any for Harish or even myself. Anyone has any questions in particular to the topic that is being discussed right now? Can you please put your hands up and we can pass on the mic to you.
I know it's getting time for chai pe charcha now.
Yeah, if you have the questions, please raise your hand, I'll come. We can continue.
All right, okay. I guess no, I think we are also coming to the close of the session. So maybe one or two questions more, Harish, in general, like and you take care of automation, etc., in your company. And in general, from a IoT standpoint, how do you see the journey of companies in India, how the market is going, what kind of pitfalls are there to be watched out for? Any successes, any examples, any guidance?
Uh, I can take an example. I mean, in our pandemic days, we had implemented IoT, wherein each of our transport vehicles were using the IoT, and instead of going across all the departments and which used to take about a couple of hours, they were using the IoT, and we were able to achieve it and lessen the time considerably low. So that's the kind of technology what it gives, and really puts supply chain into a better direction.
Yep.
And having said that, we saw a lot of discussions happening on that area, and we also heard, sorry, I forgot the name, that there is going to be a considerable amount of investment which is going to come into India from local as well as the global pharma companies on the IoT and the futuristic technologies. So I think with that space, there is a lot more which is going to happen, if not today, but it's going to definitely help. Because I have seen that use cases working, and it's really going to put the supply chain. Consider a global scenario where you have different plants in different places, and you end up in a geopolitical situation, but you need to move away from that country where you're manufacturing to a different country and move the raw materials. Think of those scenarios which are going to give a different perspective in terms of applying these IoT and the futuristic AI technologies.
Sure. All right, so maybe a last question here. I think there are a lot of things, that are happening in the digital space, and then a lot of people, I'm just even coming from discussions today, while we met a lot of people, they're talking of RPAs, they're talking of blockchain, talking of a lot of those kind of technologies, which is futuristic, not yet to take off fully here. Do you think we are ready, from that point of view to adapt to that, or do you think, we may have to kind of think a little bit harder, look at use cases, pilots, be more comfortable, and then start developing,
I'm sure most of our colleagues here would agree. All of you are doing automation, right? It may not be that your company is funding, but you are doing it on your desktops, right? Can you just raise your hands? No? Oh yeah, I can see some. So I'm sure a lot of them are doing it. So it is about when you want to do across the company that you need that funding and you need that thing to come here. But automation per se, I'm sure everyone is enabled. If you are doing a macro, that itself is an automation for me. So I don't see a robotic process automation has to be there, or a process task mining force has to be there to really be an automation. And we are all well versed with that, but we need to see what is the best suited adoption. Like Tushar clearly marked it out in this AI/ML thing. I like that. Not everything should be automated. What needs to be automated and how we are going to benefit out of the automation is what we really need to think, than just getting automation done for everything, which can not add much value towards it. But with this, I'm sure there is a lot of adoption on the RPA side. At least we are moving towards the hyper automation. Now the RPA is done, we have saved not many hours. Now we are moving to the next level of adopting the hyper automation that is going to be AI/ML, which is going to be the basis, is going to be the RPA for that.
All right. Thank you so much, Harish. I think it was wonderful talking to you. And some of the pointers in the direction, possibly consolidation. A lot of people in the audience have their own points of view, but I'm sure, we will possibly, in collaboration, and we had great participation from different people from different organizations today. It was wonderful hearing a lot of viewpoints of the industry and where we're going, and I'm sure with the current set of adoption of technologies, innovations, developing of skill sets, etc., Pharmaceuticals is going to be much more bigger than the 50 billion it's right now. And we look forward to partnering in this journey together, and a lot of collaboration has to happen in the market. And it was a pleasure having you, Harish, today. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Arvind. Nice talking to you, and thank you all, and nice talking to you all and meeting you all.